Part 56. Do you want to sleep with him? Lin Qijun left the white mansion and sat alone in the back of the car, watching the street scene flying upside down outside the window, while magnifying all kinds of imaginary scandals about the two people in the ward. Heart-wrenching pain. In the past, Xuan Huaifeng was so close to him, he could easily get it. How could he let it go in the name of being stupid and pure? Now it seems that even if there are good-looking people in the city, there is no one who can compare to him. That skin, lips, bearing, grace is unparalleled. Hateful that Bai Xuelan robbed people silently and watched over them as if they were eating. He is also very powerful. There is a cousin of the Prime Minister behind him. And he even dares to lead people into the presidential palace to ask for something. Lin Qijun's heart suddenly moved, and he didn't know what mystery he caught. He sat silently, thinking. And after a while, he got up and suddenly sat up straight. Excited. What brought people into the Prime Minister's office to ask for medicine? Total nonsense. Last night, I had dinner with Chen Dongsheng, counselor of the Prime Minister's office. Chen Dongsheng didn't talk about the Jinghua building. The Prime Minister was out all day, running around and sweating. And finally went to the police department to appease the frightened police chief. Yet, Bai Xuelan went to the Prime Minister's office. Which one could he find? Penicillin is a military drug. And the quantity is scarce, even the chief of customs cannot take it directly. Why did Bai Xuelan get it in one morning? Lin Qijun snorted heavily in his heart. I have long known that this surnamed Pai has always acted recklessly and disregarded the law. Okay, hands and feet moved to the military supplies. Lin Qijun patted the car seat and shouted. Stop. The car came to a screeching halt and the driver looked back at him blankly. When Lin Qijun called to stop, he was too excited for a while. After calling, he didn't make a sound for a while. His heart was pounding and his mind was spinning sharply. After a while, he ordered, go back to Yongxing first. He quickly made a phone call. After inquiring about some information, he hurriedly checked the phone number of an acquaintance and asked, is the commander He Bisheng here? You can find him tomorrow. Lin Qijun had something in his heart, so he didn't want to wait long. And asked again, do you know where he went? The other side said, I heard that he went out of town to Fengshan Mountain to attend some friend's wedding go. Lin Qijun remembered when he heard it. Yes, last month, Lao he also said that a friend he knew, a lady surnamed Zhang, was also a new woman. He married a woman who had returned from overseas. He refused to follow the old manners and learned the habits of foreigners. The Western restaurant invites friends for a meal, right for the wedding. It must be today. Lin Qijun knew Bai Xuelan's methods. He did things quickly and accurately. Notify Lao he as soon as possible, and ask him to pay attention as soon as possible. Lin Qijun made up his mind. Went out in the car again, got in the car and ordered, go out of the city, go to Fengshan Mountain. Hurry, hurry. He urged him to drive straight ahead, not paying attention to the fact that the two black sedans behind him had their tails adorned with tails as soon as they left the city. After walking for a while, there were fewer vehicles on the road outside the city, and two black sedans suddenly accelerated and rushed up. The driver had also been through the incident. When he saw the situation, he knew something was wrong and said, damn. He stepped on the accelerator and tried to escape, but was already held hostage by two cars one after the other. Lin Qijun's car couldn't get past the right is too far, the car in front slows down suddenly, he can only slow down in order not to hit. At last, it was forced to stop on the road. As soon as he stopped, the two cars in front and behind stopped as well, and 7 or 8 big men emerged from the inside, all with black-shelled pistols in their hands. Lin Qijun was once tied up once. When he saw them open the car door, the butt of a gun smashed the driver's head, knocking the driver unconscious. Then he bent over to the back of the car to arrest him, and was completely paralyzed in the car. He hugged his head and said, "Don't say no, fellow heroes, if you have something to say. If you don't have enough entanglement, even if you give an amount." Before he finished speaking, he was caught on the black car like an eagle grabbing a chicken on the eyes. Lin Qijun couldn't see anything in the car. He heard the car's engine start and staggered in the back compartment. He didn't know how long it took the car to stop. When he was taken out of the car, the black cloth covering his eyes was removed, and a strong light suddenly came, making him dizzy for a while, and after a while, he barely saw a few people standing in front of him. A thinner man patted him on the shoulder like an old friend and giggled, "Brother Lin, I'm sorry, these people are rough. They've wronged you." Lin Qijun took a closer look. The face was familiar, and after thinking for a while, he was surprised. "You are not brother with the Huaifeng." Xuan Huaifeng sighed. "Do you only remember now? You used to come to my house to play with my brother, and then you even gave I used an English pen, remember?" Lin Qijun was shocked and said, "Of course I remember you. But now, what's going on?" Xuan Huaifeng looked at him with a smile and said with a smile, "The matter is very simple. We know that brother Lin and the Zhou family have always had a cooperative relationship, and we happen to have a little relationship with the Zhou family. Now that he is dead, naturally we both have to unite and be like-minded partners. Don't worry, you will definitely not suffer from this. Our strength is 10 times stronger than Zhou Huo. Look, this is our military commander." He pointed to another tall man with his hand. Lin Qijun complained secretly. In his heart, he didn't want to have any entanglement with Zhou Huo, let alone another partner who came to him, but now the meat is on the chopping block, and his life belongs to others. You can only plan and act. Biting his head, he looked at the commander Zan, but found that the other party was also looking at him up and down. His eyes were quite unfriendly. Xuan Huaifeng said, "Commander, this young master of the Lin family, you have seen him back then. He often walks around the Xuan house, and my brother and I are best friends." Zan Luzhao snorted. Xuan Huaifeng added, "The commander of his family's foreign trade and big ships is very important. You should have a good chat with him." He took out his gun and placed it on Lin Qijun's forehead. Lin Qijun screamed. The cold muzzle of the gun provoked a cold sweat, and the body and limbs were stiff, unable to move. Zan Luzhao held a gun to him, and said coldly, "Mr. Lin, before we cooperate, I will ask you one thing. To be honest, you can live tonight. If one word is false, next year will be your birthday today." Lin Qijun's face was ashen, and he asked tremblingly, What do you want to ask?" Zan Luzhao said, "I know that when you were studying, you were very good with Xuan Huaifeng. Have you ever slept with him? Speak." The gun stabbed sharply in the forehead. Lin Qijun took 2 steps back, shook his head and said, "No. No. Really? Really? Not once? Once. Not once. Do you want to sleep with him?" Startled, he didn't make a sound for a long time. Zan Luzhao poked his pistol on his forehead threateningly again. Lin Qijun lowered his eyes and said, "Anyway, the two of us are innocent. It's been good all these years. But I haven't touched him once at all." Although he didn't completely answer the question, this sentence was quite revealing's mind. Zan Luzhao then put the gun back in the holster and squeezed out a sharp smile like a knife. Then, "Now let's talk about how to cooperate." After 3 hours, Bai Xuelan rushed back to the hospital. It was already dark at that time. He went to the corridor and saw the guards in the corridor looking at him like a wolf. He was slightly satisfied and walked forward. Song Ren loyally stood in front of the door of the ward. Raising his hands, he gave him a saluting. Bai Xuelan nodded and asked, "How is the situation inside? Has the fever subsided?" Song Ren hesitated. The smile on Bai Xuelan's face suddenly froze, and he quickly asked, "What's wrong with him?" Song Ren said, "It's okay. The doctor has already seen it and said that it is common for repeated injuries. The medicine often burns at night. Besides, I gave Adjutant Xuan an injection of that foreign medicine just now." Bai Xuelan hurriedly pushed the door open after hearing him halfway through. He sat down in front of the bed, reached out and stroked his hand, and sure enough, the heat that had already dropped seemed to come up again, and it was even hotter than before he left. Xuan Huaifeng just got the injection. But he closed his eyes and rested, but he didn't fall asleep. He felt someone touch his forehead. The gesture was very familiar and intimate. Knowing that Bai Xuelan was back, he opened his eyes, smiled slightly, and said, "Your business is done?" Bai Xuelan said regretfully, "What business? I would have called back and ordered a few words earlier. I shouldn't have left, I'm really careless." "Why are you burning again?" Xuan Huaifeng said, "I just measured the amount, and it burned a little. But I think it's fine." Bai Xuelan asked, "Are you dizzy?" Xuan Huaifeng shook his head. When Bai Xuelan saw him shaking his head, snow-white neck moved gently from side to side, which was so beautiful and attractive, he couldn't help but put his fingertips on the skin there. Rubbed it with love, and sighed, "Look, there is not much flesh in the first place. When you got hurt, even your neck became thinner." Xuan Huaifeng said, "Forgive me, lie down in a sullen state. You suddenly got interested and played this kind of numb cultural drama for me." He asked, "How are things going in the office? There is such a big mess in the Jinghua building. How are you going to clean it up?" Bai Xuelan saw that although he was burning, he was still in good spirits, and smiled. "You are doing your duty. You are lying on the hospital bed and only caring about cross-examination." My boss. Sitting on the edge of the bed, he shared his plans with Xuan Huaifeng. After the official business was finished, he started talking about his private affairs. Xuan Huaifeng asked curiously, "Why didn't you see my sister today?" Bai Xuelan said, "What do you want her to do? Isn't it enough for me to take care of you? Mrs. Nian is a well-to-do person now, and she often runs away. The hospital is not good. She listened to my advice and went home to recuperate. If you want her to come, I will call and ask her to come and have a look." Xuan Huaifeng said, No, this is very good. I just don't want her to run back and forth for me. But I am surprised that she is willing to listen to you." Bai Xuelan smiled and tugged at his ear, and asked, "What? Can't you listen to me?" Xuan Huaifeng thought. "Yesterday she also advised me to resign. Obviously she has a lot of opinions on me, and now it's not surprising that the trend has suddenly changed." He guessed that Bai Xuelan moved his hands and feet. However, he was in a dilemma for the life of the eldest sister. Since Bai Xuelan could solve it peacefully, it would be a good thing. He didn't ask any further. Bai Xuelan accompanied him for a while and asked him, "Are you hungry? What would you like to eat?" Xuan Huaifeng laughed, "It's really boring to be a patient. Lying in bed, you either sleep or eat. Just now, the housekeeper in your house sent someone to bring porridge. I've already drank a bowl." Bai Xuelan said, "Yes, the food in the hospital was not good. So I ordered the housekeeper to make it every day and deliver it. You can rest assured about the food you make at home." Xuan Huaifeng said, "Have you eaten?" "I can't finish it. There are still more than half of it left, they are all clean. If you don't dislike it, you can eat a little bit. It tastes pretty good." Bai Xuelan went to the General Administration of Customs for a few hours. After finishing the work, he rushed to the hospital. Hungry. I walked over and touched the large porcelain pot with the porridge in it. There was still a little residual temperature, and there was a basket next to it. There were 2 clean and beautiful enamel bowls and 2 pairs of chopsticks, covered with a white towel cloth, and obviously it was taken from the White Mansion as a spare. He took out an enamel bowl for porridge himself. This porridge is filled with marinated pork liver and shredded cabbage. It tastes very good and is easy to eat. Bai Xuelan hula hula. Eating 4 or 5 bowls in a row, and eating a porcelain pot upside down. Xuan Huaifeng tilted his head on the bed and looked at him with a smile. Bai Xuelan didn't look back, and knew that his eyes were on him, and his body was warm. This situation can be described as silent rather than sound. He became more and more obedient. After eating the porridge, he went to wash his hands and still sat back by the bed. He only probed Xuan Huaifeng's forehead. Unexpectedly, Xuan Huaifeng was overwhelmed by such an uncharacteristic situation. If he was still as fussy and troubled as usual, he would still know how to deal with it. Now Bai Xuelan neither moves nor kisses, but just sits with a gentle face, like a gentleman. With his black eyes staring at him. Down, it jumped really hard. Pounding, pounding. It was as if he was about to jump out of his chest at any time. And the sound was like someone beating a drum inside. Xuan Huaifeng felt very embarrassed for his heart palpitations for no reason. His face was hot, and he didn't know whether it was a fever or embarrassment looking at him. Xuan Huaifeng simply asked Bai Xuelan, "There is nothing else to do here. Why don't you work hard and teach me a few words of French?" Bai Xuelan was very happy and said, "Okay, I am the one, it's a good teacher. Well, I have to think about it first. What new words should I teach you?" With a contemplative look, after thinking for a while, he raised his eyebrows and smiled, "I see." Xuan Huaifeng said, "Sir, please start the class." Bai Xuelan fluently said a few French phrases. Xuan Huaifeng frowned and said, "Speak slowly, I didn't listen carefully." Bai Xuelan repeated in a cadence, "Je t'aime, je t'aime toujours." "You told me first," and read it again. Xuan Huaifeng had followed him to learn French for a few days, but there were some words in it that he understood. He looked at Bai Xuelan and said helplessly, "I really asked for advice." "Are you taking advantage of the opportunity to ask for money?" Bai Xuelan asked. "How did I get a favor?" Xuan Huaifeng remained silent. Bai Xuelan asked, "I also taught you sincerely. Do you know the difference between these 3 phrases?" The attitude of the question was quite serious, and he looked like a gentleman. Xuan Huaifeng doubted the letter and replied, "I think the meaning is probably the same, just the difference in tense." Bai Xuelan only gave a soft but did not answer with a smile. Xuan Huaifeng's eagerness to learn was tireless, but he was aroused by his interest, and he took the initiative to ask, "Am I right?" Bai Xuelan said, "You asked me to explain in detail, so I said it, but don't blame it again. I took the opportunity to get a bargain." Clearing his throat, he explained, "Je t'aime, it's the past tense, which means I loved you in the past." After a pause, he looked at Xuan Huaifeng and added in a low voice, "I've always loved you in the past." Xuan Huaifeng had vaguely guessed this long ago, but now it came out of his mouth like confirmation. Inadvertently his heart thumped again, hitting his ribs, and he forgot to even say the words of condemnation. Je t'aime, it's the present tense. It means that I love you. I love you very much now. He spit out the words gracefully, and the fire in his eyes ignited, burning to the face of him. Xuan Huaifeng's face was flushed, and he felt a little drunk. Bai Xuelan said, "Since you want to learn, you can't just listen to it." Then the last one, "Je t'aime toujours, what do you mean by thinking about it?" If Xuan Huaifeng didn't answer, but instead showed his timidity, it would be even more embarrassing. After thinking about it, he asked in a low voice, probably in the future tense. Does it mean that I will love you in the future? Because of the heartbeat, the clear shyness is more cute and attractive. Bai Xuelan's eyes never left him for a split second. Hearing this, he smiled and said in a low and gentle voice, that means, I will love you forever. He raised Xuan Huaifeng's chin and put his lips together. Xuan Huaifeng couldn't help but subconsciously resist his unsolicited kiss, but this time he was slightly startled, and he naturally raised his hand to push away. But it feels very good on the lips. It is the clean and unique taste of Bai Xuelan. Inside the mouth, it seems that something sweet is gently stroking, rich and intense. At this point, how about pushing him away? Horizontally and vertically, it cannot be pushed open. It's better to save some effort. Thinking like this, the raised hand simply rested lightly on Bai Xuelan's shoulder. The more Bai Xuelan kissed, the deeper he tangled his tongue, constantly caressing his delicate and fair neck. Xuan Huaifeng could not help but learn. And rubbed the back of Bai Xuelan's strong neck with his slender fingers. Dazedly thought, this person's body is so good, even the muscles in the neck are hard and hidden under the skin. It looks like a gentleman on weekdays. Who knew that once he pounced on someone, he would be as fast and accurate as a beast? After kissing until their lungs were hot, the two men parted their lips reluctantly, each other's chests were pounding, and they could clearly hear each other's gasps. Incredibly, it was obviously not the first kiss, but like the first kiss. It made people suddenly enter another life as fresh. Bai Xuelan was afraid that his heart would heat up, so he couldn't hold it for a while, and moved Xuan Huaifeng's wound. Took a long breath and said, the class has been taught, you, a good student, should close your eyes and sleep well. Xuan Huaifeng asked, are you sleeping in that little bed tonight? Bai Xuelan said, I won't sleep, I'll just sit here. Xuan Huaifeng asked, why? Bai Xuelan said, I slept yesterday. That little bed guy. When I woke up, I realized that you had a high fever. This is a lesson from the past. I will hold your hand and sit by the bed tonight. If you have a high fever again, I will know. Xuan Huaifeng said, you have to handle official duties during the day and take care of patients, and you can't sleep at night. How can you do it? I don't want to be just a little bit. And you're sick again, that's really bad. Bai Xuelan said, anyway, I need time. Just check your body temperature. Xuan Huaifeng sighed and thought for a moment. Then come up and sleep. The voice was barely audible. But Bai Xuelan understood and asked incredulously, you didn't fool me, did you? Xuan Huaifeng said, okay, I'll fool you. That's all. Bai Xuelan hurriedly said, no, even if you deceive me, I would be happy to be fooled. Before it was too late, he took off his jacket neatly, lifted a corner of the quilt, and said, be careful, I will come in slowly. Lie down very carefully, leaning half of his body on his side. Letting Xuan Huaifeng put one shoulder against himself, the hospital bed was not as crowded as the bed at home, and the two of them were pressed against one another. Bai Xuelan asked, did it squeeze you? Xuan Huaifeng said, it's okay. He moved his body slightly, found a comfortable position, and whispered to Bai Xuelan, this bed is small, don't you want it? Move your hands and feet, be careful to fall down in the middle of the night. Bai Xuelan laughed like he had eaten honey, and replied, don't worry. I understand. Xuan Huaifeng saw his strange tone and asked him, what do you understand? Bai Xuelan said, it's going to be a long time in Japan. I'll naturally wait for you to take care of yourself, and it won't be too late to move your feet. Before Xuan Huaifeng could refute, he pecked his lips heavily, put his arms around him and closed his eyes. The two fell asleep hugging each other.